Since this channel started, I have been very big on the one plate rule. 10 and 1/8 inch plate filled up no higher than 3 inches with nothing falling off the sides. The plate should be able to be shaken, I've always said, and nothing should fall off. That's still true. In fact, if I had this to do over again, that is one of the things that I would still insist on. And I know that binging and attachment to food being what it is, I would not have been able to succeed had I not followed that rule, because there's that pesky little problem of you going in and eating out of bags and containers and going back for seconds and thirds and fourths in the name of satisfying hunger. So one of the most important things has always been the one plate rule. You eat once a day, you eat a certain amount, and that gives you a ballpark level of calories, and then you're done with it. But there is another way, and that is the one bowl rule. So I get asked about this from time to time, and I get questions every week really about whether or not, and why I use sometimes multiple containers, and whether or not they can, and I wanted to unpack this a little bit. So here's the important thing to remember about the one plate rule. It's not essential, but it depends on your health goal. It depends on the amount of weight you have to lose and your own ability to maintain self-control. So if you struggle with self-control, if you struggle with portion control, you need to hang on my every word, because this is very important. Now let's visit the monk guidelines for eating. And if you pay attention to these, you're going to find that there's a lot to be had. First of all, a monk only is allowed to eat from the time they wake up to noon, no past high noon. So they have to be done with all eating within that period of time. Second, they can't cook or store their own food. So whatever is in their bowl, and monks always have a bowl that they go on alms rounds for, and the public feeds them whatever food they want. So they go around and they make a call in the streets of Thailand, and the people give them whatever food they're going to eat that day. Whatever is given to them, they're going to eat. It may be rice, it may be vegetables. It's usually vegetarian or vegan, but it can, in some cases, depending on the sect of the monk, it can be meat or flesh food. The most important rule for monks is that they eat whatever they're given. They don't prepare anything. They don't cook anything ever. So, and of course, they don't use money. So there's none of that to be even concerned with. But when they're seated, the monk is expected to eat on the floor, sitting Indian style preferably, and is expected to eat slowly. They're given a certain time frame to eat in, and when they are done, they're done. So this is one meal a day where they can choose their time anytime before noon, and that meal has to last them. So the bowl is usually this size. Compare this to the standard size bowl. A little bit of difference here. And one of the coolest rules, and one of the ones I have come to accept myself, is anything that is in the bowl is mixed. And that helps destroy established taste palates, so that you don't go through the day craving what you want. You don't get to do buffet style, where if you like rice, you do rice. If you like sweet and sour chicken, you do that. It mixes well. Instead, you're given whatever is given. You might get a piece of chicken and strawberries. I mean, stuff that you would not normally eat together. But when you do that, when all of your food fits into one bowl, it gets mixed. And so when you eat it slowly, you eat it seated, you eat it with your eyes reflecting only on the food. You don't look at the food of others. You don't look around. You eat slowly and you reflect. And when you eat, you say eating or consuming, because your mind must be focused on the task of the fact that you're eating mindfully. You're not scarfing your food down. You never bring your head over like this. You never slurp. You don't talk, and you don't make sounds. So those are the basic guidelines for monks when they eat. And of course, they do one meal a day, so there's no chance of gaining. Anything they get, they have to eat. And when they're done, they either take a napkin or some cloth, and they have to clean the bowl completely. They have to wash the bowl. And I neglected to say that when the junior monks eat, they can't start until the senior monks eat. So this is more control. I made a video years ago about the 5-minute buffer and how you should wait to start eating. Well, that's what they have, but it's in the form of the senior monks eating first. So they have to wait, and when it comes time to eat, they're hungry, but you control your hunger. And as you control your hunger, you eat when you're in control. Well, you can do the same thing. You can do the same thing with the bowl of food. Anything, of course, not being a monk, you have the option to just fill it with whatever you want. But anything that you fill the bowl with, nothing falling off the sides, that's going to be your daily meal. And of course, you can fill it with protein, you can fill it with carb dominant, fat dominant, whatever you want to do, so long as that is the only thing that you need to do. So in answer to some of your questions, the reason I don't always do this, even though I generally try to keep whatever will fit on one plate or bowl, is because it's a level of self-control signpost. If you are able to go out to Arby's and order a roast beef sandwich and fries and a soda and not let that trip you up, then that's great. If you are able to go to any fast food restaurant and do the same, or buffet, you can do the same, that's great. The issue is, have you mastered this topic? The whole point of eating once a day is that eating is such a big part of our lives that we tend to let go. And you get in that mindset where you start to crave and you realize you're scarfing down your food, you're slurping, you're drinking from the bowl, you're doing nasty stuff. And of course, when you do that, you're not eating mindfully. You're not eating in self-control. You're not eating usually within the window. Or if you are, you've just started eating with reckless abandon. And in some sects, the way they used to do it, I don't know if they do it this way anymore, they would the head monk would come by and swat the person over the head and make them spit out their food and take their hands and put it back in their mouths, to reinforce the lesson that all food is gross once you put it in your mouth, because you want to process it and get rid of it. So all of this food that you lust after, the moment you put it into your mouth, you have to remember you're not going to desire it anymore. That's mental control. That's mindfulness. That's ability to take control. So the question you have to ask yourself is this: are you in control when you eat? You perfectly well know when you are. And if you are, you can apply some of these rules that we talked about for monks and work on them yourself. Pick food choices, I've said this before, that you agree with. What agrees with you? Are you too attached to the taste palette? And I've had a lot of questions lately about foods that go good together. And people asking me, you eat so much rice. Well, part of the reason I do that is because rice goes with any hardcore meal. You can put it with meatballs, you can put it with fish, you can put it with chicken, you can put it standalone, you can put it with noodles, beans. You're probably hearing some ticking in the background. I'm making a 15 pot of 15 bean soup, I guess it's called. You get them for $1 at any grocery store. What's the lesson here? The lesson here is non-attachment. If you had, and I've said from the very first video on this channel, if you still have psychological attachments to your eating, you're not going to be able to stay the course. You're not going to be able to control yourself at the meal. You cannot allow food to remind you of pleasurable times. You cannot allow food to remind you of grandiosity or anything that runs through your head and makes you just go, yum, yum, yum. It's not that way in reality, because what you're really doing is you're just eating. It's no different than hearing. It's no different than smelling. It's one of the great hindrances to enlightenment, to allow liking or disliking to guide your thinking. That's called an attachment. So if you can get rid of your attachments and you can follow the one bowl or one plate rule, select foods that only go together. Unlike the monks who don't have that opportunity, you actually can have a time where you do enjoy your meals a little bit more, but not too much. And that's where your mindfulness comes in. Have a good day.